Hi, this is Bill Nelson from Grand County Council Advancement Committee, and we are going to do a presentation today on the Life to Eagle process. This presentation will contain all of the information that you need to go from your Life Board of Review through your Eagle project and your Eagle Board of Review. Now, the process might look a little complex, but it's really pretty simple once you get into it, and if you take it one step at a time, you will succeed. So the objectives of the presentation is to get you familiar with the process and point out places you can go on the internet that will actually help you through each of the steps of the process. Okay, so this is the process flow we're going to go through in our demonstration today, our presentation. To begin with, you're going to need to get 13 required Eagle badges done. The 13 badges we'll go into later on in the presentation, but they're required. You have to have certain merit badges to become Eagle. And then there's 8 optional, which you can just grab from the 135 badges that are out there. You can take 8 of those that you can work on to get Eagle. You need a total of 21. Now, you can work these badges at any time. You can start when you are a scout, when you first join the unit. As long as you're a Boy Scout, you can start working on merit badges. The next thing that you need to do before this process actually starts is to is to obtain your Life rank, and to do that you have to pass your Life Board of Review. We would like you to pass your Life Board of Review before you are in high school. So your goal is to get to Life before you're in high school. Your second goal is to get to Eagle by the end of your freshman year of high school, or very close to Eagle by the end of your freshman year of high school, so that you can obtain Eagle this summer between your freshman and sophomore year. So that's your goal. Life gets a lot busier after that, and it's just easier on you and everybody else if you make that progression. Okay, so you pass your Life Board of Review. You download the workbook from the Council Eagle Services web page, which we will show you where that is. And you get what is known as the Eagle Project Workbook. So you get the Eagle Service Project Workbook, and you get together with a beneficiary, you get a project identified, you write up a proposal, the little proposal section, which is the first section of the book, and you get that approved. You get it approved by your unit, and you get it approved by the district. And we'll show you more about that. And then you take the workbook, and with your beneficiary, you guys plan out what it is you're going to do, and you execute the project, and you get the project done. And then at the very end, you write up, hey, I did the project, and this is what I did, and how many hours it took. And then the beneficiary signs it, Scoutmaster signs it, and and you sign it. All right, and that kind of ends the project phase of the Eagle Life to Eagle process. While all of that is going on, you serve for 6 months with your unit in a position of responsibility. So there are certain positions that will count towards this requirement, and we'll show you those in the presentation. And you'll do those 6 months. It has to be after your Life Board of Review. And at the same time, during this process, go ahead and go get your references. You're going to need a set of references to be included in your Eagle packet to hand in at the end. And for your Eagle packet, what we recommend is that you get a 1-inch binder, and you start putting all this stuff in this 1-inch binder so that you have it in one place. Things don't get lost, things don't get wet, things don't get dirty. Everything is in this one place. So we're going to refer to this binder as your Eagle packet in the presentation. There is something we call Requirement 7, which is a, a list of your life purpose and ambitions, and things that you do outside of scouting. And a real simple little report, one pager. You can fill it out in 5 minutes. Really easy. There's a form that's on the council website with all the other Eagle forms. Download that, fill it out, get that done. You don't have to wait till the end. Get it done at any time. Any of these things here you can do at any time after your life board review. So I would suggest you get them out of the way and get them done. Scoutmaster Conference does not have to be the last thing you do. It can be done anytime after your life board review. So get your Scoutmaster Conference for Eagle out of the way as well. Once you have the 21 merit badges earned, and you really have to wait until those are earned, have the person in your unit that is in charge of advancement, that's the person that goes out and gets the badges for you guys and enters everything in the record and all that. Have that person go to Internet Advancement and download the individual member report for you in Internet Advancement. It will list all of your merit badges and their dates, all your rank advancements and their dates, and it gives some other information that you will need to fill out your Eagle Checker and your Eagle Scout application. So for your sake, ask them to get you that report. Once you have that report plus the other things done, you're pretty much done at this point. Now all we have to do is finish the paperwork. So there is a checklist that we have out on our Eagle Services webpage. Download that checklist and finish it, complete it. It'll tell you if anything looks weird. So that's why we have the checklist, is to check, make sure that everything is okay. You need to fill out your official Boy Scout Eagle application that's going to be sent to National. So once you have the checklist done, everything looks okay. It'll give you some guidance as to how to fill out the application, and then fill out the Boy Scout application. It's also available from the Eagle Services webpage, or Council Eagle Services webpage. And all that stuff goes into your packet, into that binder that I talked about, and you give that binder to the person at your district level who reviews all of this stuff. That person will review it, and then they'll set up a board of review date for you. You go to your board of review and you become an Eagle. That's basically the process. It's pretty simple, as long as you take it step by step. Don't get overwhelmed that, hey, this is a huge big process and now I'm becoming an Eagle Scout. It's going to take forever and ever, and it's real complicated. It's not. It's pretty simple. Just take it step by step. So you can go to the Grand Canyon Council webpage, and where we have the entire Life to Eagle process there, and I'll kind of walk you through what's at that webpage. And the webpage is Grand Canyon Council, BSA.org, Advancement Eagle-Scouts. So if you go there, grandcanyonbsa.org/advancement/Eagle-Scouts, it'll bring you to a web page that has all the process there. And just as a reminder, start working this seriously during your freshman year of high school, because life does get busy after that. So as we saw on the flow chart, right now, as soon as possible, work on the 21 merit badges that you need for Eagle. Remember, there's 13 of those 21 are what they call Eagle required badges. They're not optional, you've got to take them. And here they are listed. They're also listed in your Boy Scout handbook. If your Boy Scout handbook is the one with the flag on it, realize that cooking is not in your handbook, but it is required. So Make sure that you take the cooking merit badge, as well as all the ones that are listed in your Boy Scout handbook. If you're using the new 2016 Boy Scout handbook, cooking is listed. So some of these merit badges are required, but you can take one or the other. So down here, emergency preparedness or life saving. So you can take one or the other, and it would count as one of the required merit badges. Cycling, hiking, or swimming. You can take one or the other in that category. It would count as one of the Eagle required badges. If you took two of them, cycling and hiking, if you got both of those, one of those, your choice, turns into an optional badge, and the other one would be counted as an Eagle badge. In addition to the Eagle ones that are required, the 13 Eagle ones that are required, you also need to have 8 optional merit badges of your choosing of the 135 badges that are out there. So you get to choose 8 badges of your choosing to count towards your Eagle award. Other than merit badges, the other thing you can do right after your life board review is to serve 6 months actively while a Life Scout. So that's one of the requirements. You have to be a Life Scout and serve actively in your unit for 6 months. You also have to have a total of 6 months of position of responsibility since becoming a Life Scout. In other words, since your life board review. And so the position of responsibility dates and the serve actively dates both start at your life board review date. After that, you need to serve in both of those. Now, if you can serve in more than one position, as long as it adds up to 6 months. Now, the positions are particular, and you need to look in your Boy Scout handbook for which positions count for the unit that you're in. Now, and it counts starting at your life board review. So if at your life board review you're in a Boy Scout troop, these are the positions, any of these positions would count towards a board review, position of responsibility. If you are in a varsity scout team, there are different positions in a team than there are in a troop, and you would have to fulfill one of these positions. And you're supposed to actually do the job that's described. You don't just be one and get credit on paper. And if you're in a venturing crew, they have different positions, and you need to fulfill one of those positions for 6 months. But you only need to be in one of these categories for the 6 months and it's just 6 months total. It's not like you have to do one and the other and the other. And question comes up, when can a boy start working on his Eagle project? You can work on your Eagle project as soon as you become Life, as soon as you finish your Life Scout board review. The very next day you can start your Eagle project. You can think about what you want to do for an Eagle project at any time. You don't have to be a Life Scout to do that. But to start working on your project and getting it approved, you have to be a Life Scout. Okay, so let's look at the requirement itself for the project. What is the project? There seems to be a lot of questions having to do with the project. Well, here's the requirement. The requirement is that for Eagle, you must plan, develop, and give leadership to others in a service project to any religious institution, any school, or your community while a Life Scout. And the Eagle Scout Service Project Workbook, and they give the number of the workbook, must be used. So that's your requirement. Your requirement is to do that. Now it says your community, and the definition of your community in the BSA is the world. So it's basically sky's the limit. Anybody, if you're doing something for a group in another country, that's fine. Doesn't have to be your local town or village. Okay, so let's look at the what you need to do in the process for your service project. Okay, first you need to go to the council website and get the workbook. And if you go to grandcanyonbsa.org at the link that I gave you before, or you go just to the council website, click on advancement, and then click on Eagle Scouts, you'll get to the Eagle Scout page. So here's an example. You go to the Grand Canyon website, and then you go here in the middle, and you'll see it says Advanced. Right here, Advancement is a pull-down menu. And as you scroll down on that pull-down menu, one of the items that you can select here is Eagle Scouts. So you select the Eagle Scouts, and it then brings you to this page. Looks like this. And in this page is the workbook. It's down here, the Eagle Service Project Workbook. Also on this page is a bunch of other items listed 1 to 8. And these are the steps and the pieces of paper that you need for your project packet. The very first thing here says read this first, and we're serious there. Read that first. Download that and read it. It's going to be everything we talk about at this presentation is going to be written out for you in that Word document. You know, take it, print it out, save it, refer to it over and over again. It should answer most of the questions that you're going to have having to do with the project. Okay, so read the README first file. And we're serious about you reading that. If you come back with questions, first question we're going to have is, did you read this first file? And if you didn't, we're going to want you to read it. So read that first. And then we're talking about the project workbook. And the project workbook again is number 5 here, and it says Electronic Service Project Workbook. It is a fillable PDF file. So it's an Adobe Acrobat file, and you can download it and open it up. Now you have to download it and save it to your desktop. You can't just open it up by double clicking on it. And actually, if you click on this, I think it brings you to another page, and then it tells you that you have to download it. So you have to download the file and put it on your hard drive, and then use Adobe Acrobat to open it up. The Adobe Acrobat Reader to read it. And that's because it's a fillable PDF. You can actually type in it, and it remembers, like if you put your name at the beginning, it remembers in other pages where your name goes, it automatically puts your name there. So you don't have to keep typing over and over. But for that to work, you've got to save it on your hard drive and open it with Adobe Acrobat Reader. You're going to use this project workbook through the entire process of your project. It is very important that you read the beginning of the workbook, and as you go through it, you keep reading the instructions. The beginning of the workbook is very important because it tells you your rights and your responsibilities as a scout doing a project. So it tells you what you can do, and it also tells you what people cannot do to you. So what they cannot require you to do over and above what we at the BSA are telling you to do. So it kind of gives you your rights as well as your responsibilities. So read it. It's important to read it. If you read it, follow the directions, it really is easy to fill out. From our vantage point, about 90% of the phone calls that we get on Eagle projects are handled because people don't read the workbook, don't read the instructions that are in the workbook. So if you do the instructions in the workbook, you will have a lot of success. Now, let's talk a little bit about who can be you can do your service for. You can do your service for any school, as long as the school is a not-for-profit school, which most schools are, but you can do it for any not-for-profit school. You can do it for any church. You can do it for your community, as long as there is like an Elks Club or somebody, an organization that can be the beneficiary. Or you can do it for a city or a county or a state. You can do it for them as a beneficiary. You can do it for any not-for-profit organization. And there's some examples here: United Way, Habitat for Humanity, U.S. Forest Service. Anybody who is a not-for-profit or a governmental organization. The project does not have to be original. The way when I talk to a scout about a project, I say, do something that you're going to be proud of when you talk about it with your son in 20 years. So come up with a project that you're going to be proud of. It doesn't have to be unique. It doesn't have to be lasting. Some people came up with the idea that a project has to be lasting. It doesn't. It can be something that doesn't last very long, or it's an event that you organize. It could be something like that. What we are looking for is we are looking for you to show leadership and guide a group of people through the beginning to the end of a project. That's what we're looking for, how you show leadership. That's the importance of the Eagle Project. So who's responsible? You are responsible. The scout is responsible for everything. All right? I don't like it when parents call me about projects. The scout is responsible for the project, for planning, directing, following through on the project, and making sure it's successful. It's your job. The parent is there to motivate and sympathize when things go wrong, but it is the scout's responsibility. It's the scout that's doing it. They are going to get credit for it. It's not your parent's project. We assume your parent knows how to do a project. Restrictions. There are no minimum hours for the project, and no one can tell you there are. All right? It doesn't matter how many hours you spend on it, as long as you get it done and you're showing leadership. That's going to force you, the showing leadership part, it's going to add hours to your project, like it or not, but that's the requirement. We don't normally approve routine labor for a project. Routine labor is normally something that happens, is normally done by the beneficiary. The beneficiary normally mows their lawn, so your project can't be mowing the lawn. The example here is pulling weeds on a football field. Normally there's somebody that's hired to pull weeds in the football field. That's normal routine maintenance. Your project can't be pulling the weeds in the football field. So keep that in mind when you're defining your project. Projects can't be of a commercial nature. In other words, you can't sell cars for a car lot. You can't sell something for a retail store. You can't even help put up shelves for a retail store as a project. It's got to be a not-for-profit entity. However, sometimes a company might own a park that is across the street or on their property that they own, but they've opened it up for the general use of the public. It's a public park. In that case, you're not. If you were to do some improvement of that park, you're not doing something for the company that's a commercial nature. You're actually improving something for the social use of the community, and that will count. So if it's in that kind, sometimes that happens when you bump into things like museums and places like that. Realize no more than one Eagle Scout candidate may receive credit for working on the same Eagle Scout service project. So don't try to just leverage what Charlie's doing and you're going to do the same project, and both of you will get credit for it. And that doesn't happen. You've got to have different projects. Projects may not be performed for the BSA or the council or the units or our properties. So you can't do it for your unit. You can't do it for the council. You can't do improvements like at Geronimo or the Herd Scout Pueblo. That would not count as an Eagle project. A project may not be an effort that primarily collects money. We would rather you not do any fundraising at all. We would rather that you get everything that you have to get either donated to you as materials or you build it yourself. So we would rather you not do any fundraising, but we realize that sometimes you're going to have to do some fundraising for maybe the food that you're going to give to the people that work on your project or some materials you're going to have to get. So we understand that, and there is fundraising as a component of the project, but the project itself cannot be primarily just fundraising. Collecting funds is not an e-project, if that's all you're doing. If you collect less than $500, there's no additional paperwork. So if you collect less than $500, then you don't need any more paperwork. If you collect more than $500, there is a fundraising application that you need to have filled out. If you are seeking cash donations of over $500 from any individual person or entity, then you have to not only fill out a fundraising application, but it also has to be submitted to council to be approved. If it's over $500 but less than $500 from a particular individual, then your district person who approves your project can approve the fundraising application. The fundraising application itself is actually in your workbook that you download. So if you need that application, it's in the workbook that you download. So some examples of projects. So setting up a community study center for children who need a place to do homework. Excellent project. Preparing plans for and building a footbridge on a trail in a national forest would be an excellent project. Putting together a children's library at a elementary school. So there is a guide with points of contact and project ideas that is at the council webpage if you want to see some more examples. So on our Eagle page, down toward about 2/3 of the way down, you'll see a guide there, give you ideas of projects. We also have a guide there for approving an Eagle project, and I would recommend downloading that and looking at it, because that approvers that approve the Eagle project, they're going to have a look at that guide and kind of get their marching orders from there. So you might as well know what it is they're looking for, and it's there. Some ideas as you're thinking about an Eagle project. Go ahead and make a list of potential projects, obtain contact information of who the beneficiary group is, call them for an appointment. Remember, when you call a beneficiary, that usually you're not the highest thing on their priority list, so you might have to call them more than once. Don't expect everybody to jump on your call and call you immediately back. You're going to need to follow up with them and set up an appointment and then talk with them and talk through a project. What you're looking for is something that about 10 scouts can do all day on a Saturday and get done. That would be something with the size of the project that you're looking for. You're not building a house, and you're not pulling weeds. You're doing something in between. once you and and the beneficiary come up with an idea, put in the put in the project proposal section what it is, and fill out that section. That's the first section of your workbook. Fill out that section. It won't take you very long, and then bring their proposal to your unit leader and your unit committee and get their approval. There's a place for them to sign. The beneficiary, there's a place for them to sign, and then go to the district, and there's a place for the district person to district approval on that approval section. You cannot start your project until you receive approvals from those people. And that's what this slide says, basically. After attaining all the approval signatures, then review the project workbook with the approver and get their approval. I guess that's what this slide is saying. So basically the same thing. I said before, you can't start your project without the approval. Again, there is a notes for Eagle project approvers, unit leaders, and boards of review on our website, GrandCanyonBSA.org/advancement in the Eagle Scout section. I would recommend as a scout that you go ahead and look at that because that way you know what it is that they are going to be looking at. Okay? All right. Now, the next section in your workbook is called a Eagle Service Project Final Plan section. I think the word final is no longer in it, so it's now called the Eagle Scout Service Project Plan section. This is something to guide you and your beneficiary so that you guys know what you're going to do first, second, third, and getting the project done. You don't need to fill it completely out. Just enough needs to be put in there that you know what you're doing and the beneficiary knows what they're doing. Nobody reviews it except you and the beneficiary. Okay, so during the project and as you're working on the project, and actually I would recommend you do this at the beginning, right when you start thinking about your project. Go ahead and start recording the time that you spent planning the project, thinking about the project, talking to anybody about the project. Record your time and the other person's time. So if you talk with your Scoutmaster for 10 minutes, your time would count and your Scoutmaster's time would count, both of you for 10 minutes. Most scouts do this in Excel. They just create two spreadsheets, one for their time and one for everybody else's time. You want to track everything. Time you spend thinking about it, time you talk to people about it, time you travel to somebody to talk about it, or to a store to buy something, or to a store to price something. All the travel time counts. Everything counts. Think of it as you're an attorney and everything's on the bill. Every single thing you do having to do with that project is on the bill, and everybody else's time as well. Make sure that you're able to, for the other people's time, you're able to say, well, this is how many Boy Scout leaders were involved, this is how many scouts were involved and their time, and this is how many non-scouts were and their time, and how many non-scout adults and their time, because you're going to need to break it out that way in your final report. Take pictures. It's good to take pictures before you even get approval, and take those before shots and bring them to the project approval, because it helps the person who's improving your project say, oh, that's what you're doing. You're going to be moving this stuff around or cleaning up this stuff. So take before pictures, take during pictures during your project of the scouts working on it. This is a good thing to give the camera to your parents. It's a good thing for them to do. It keeps them out of your hair, and you're able to lead the project. You have them take pictures. But have pictures during your project, and then have pictures at the end. The final pictures. So you have before and after pictures, and then during pictures. Put those pictures in your 1-inch binder. That'll be all part of your diary of your events. So everything goes into that 1-inch binder. Keep any records of anything that you purchased, either materials or supplies that are required for the project, so you can keep track of that, and you can report on it at the end. Also, any changes that are made during the project from what your original plan was. Record those, keep track of those as well. If the changes are major, you're going to need to get permission before you execute the changes from the district advancement chairman or from the person in the district that approved your project. Now, what is a major change? A major change would be, let's say you said you were going to put in a bench and a flagpole at a nearby park, and what you ended up doing was created a garden for them to grow vegetables in. And that's a major change. You just went from doing one thing to doing something completely different. That would be considered a major change. Also, if the scope of your project has been reduced by over a quarter, then you should probably get permission that that's still going to pass muster. In other words, you were going to collect 1,000 safety kits and pieces for first aid kits, let's say, and you ended up collecting 200, and then you want to stop. And you didn't collect the 1,000 you said you were going to. You collect much less. Now that's a change in the project. So before you go up in front of your board of review and have them say, well, that's not enough, make sure the change is approved at the district level. It helps you out in the long run. Okay, when the project is done, you take your workbook and you finish the last section. The third section of your workbook is the final report, the service project final report. Fill that in. You have to fill the third section in. It's not optional. And put in there, fill in all the blanks, and make sure that that all the sections are filled in. And we're not going to go through all the sections. It's pretty easy when you look at the report. And then make sure that it is signed by the scoutmaster and by the beneficiary. The official date of when that project is done is when the beneficiary signs it and the scoutmaster signs it. That's the official date of when the project is finished. So make sure they sign it, and you have to sign it as well, and that finishes your whole project section of your Eagle requirements. And so the workbook is now done. You have filled up the workbook and it is finished. So now you've got your project done. So now the rest of the stuff you've got to do for your Eagle is you've got to do the positions of responsibility, and you've got to do the merit badges. Once you have the positions of responsibility done and the merit badges done and the project done, you can go ahead and download the rest of the files that is at the Eagle Scout website. And so we're going to go through those other forms. One of the forms that's there is the life purpose, ambitions, and awards received. That form is called Requirement 7. Download that form. Again, it takes you 5 minutes to fill out. So if you haven't done it already, do it at this time. Get the electronic Eagle Scout requirements checker, which is an Excel spreadsheet that's up there, and download that. Award of warning, that thing does not work unless you're using Microsoft Excel on either a PC or a Macintosh. If you try to use anything else, if you try to use Google Docs, if you try to use anything that says it's an Excel compatible program, it's not going to work. No, don't even expect it to work. So you have to use Microsoft Excel with that checker. And what the checker does for you is what you're going to do in there is you're going to fill in when you did all your different ranks and when you did each of the merit badges. And you put all of that information in there and the date that you did your Scoutmaster conference and stuff like that. And you put all of that in there, and then you will submit it to, or you'll look at it. There's different tabs, and it'll check on the dates and make sure everything makes sense, which is what council has to do when they approve at the very end. So you'll know if there's any problem with the dates, and at that point, if you do have problems with the dates, just go to your unit leader and you guys work out how to make it work. There is the official Eagle Scout rank application that is up there at council on our website. Take that that file and approve it and fill it in. Not approve it. You have to fill it in. So fill that in. Now the checker is going to give you the information that you really need to fill in that application with. So use the checker, fill in the application. The application works the same way the workbook does. Save it to your hard drive, open it up in Adobe Reader, and you can type everything in, and everything's nice and neat and professional looking in your application. Your application is the critical thing. That's what goes to national, and that's what everybody has to sign at the very end. All right. Once you've got that filled in, print it out, that application, print it out. You sign it, your unit committee chair has to sign it, and your Scoutmaster has to sign the application. And that's your official, again, that's your official application. It goes to national. There is, what I mentioned at the beginning, there is a form called the Member Summary Report from Internet Advancement. And once you have all of your Eagle merit badges done, go to whoever it is that does advancement for your unit, whoever enters it into the system and buys the merit badges, and ask them for this report. And this report comes out of Internet Advancement. You don't have access to it. They do. They have to log into Internet Advancement and get a member summary report for you out of Internet Advancement. And that will have all your merit badges and all your ranks and all the dates. And that really becomes very convenient for you in filling out the checker. So have them give you that before you fill out the checker that we talked about, that Excel spreadsheet, because all this information is there. So it makes it easy for you. And then take the checker Excel spreadsheet and copy it to either a data disk or a USB flash drive, and put it in your binder. If there's something wrong with that checker, if some of the dates are wrong, the person who is responsible at the district level for reviewing all this stuff can make changes to it if they have the file. So this allows them to have the file that they can work on. They will give you back the USB drive when they at your board of review. So it's not like you're giving it up forever. So they don't keep it. Somewhere in this process, make sure that you get your recommendations letters filled in and by people, and have them put those recommendation letters in your binder. So, but they basically fold them in half and they Scotch tape them, and then you can take those and put them in your binder. You need a recommendation letter from your parents. You need it from two other adults. So you have your parent and two other adults and a teacher. So you need those recommendation letters. There is an optional one for an employer. And so if you do have a job and you work somewhere, your employer, it's optional. You don't have to ask them for one, but they can fill out a recommendation letter. There is a form that is on the website that's with all the other forms that you can download and print off and use that for them to fill in. It's a really easy form for them. Only takes them a couple of minutes to fill it in. And a lot of people, if you ask them that they have to write a letter, they get scared and it takes them a while to do it. But if you give them a form to fill out, they'll do it real quick. So it's one of those things you can hand to a teacher and say, hey, I'll be back in 5 minutes and pick it up. It's really that easy for them to get done. And so collect all these letters and put them in your binder. Now, one of the reference letters that you have to have is a religious reference letter. If you go to church, it would be somebody at your church that can fill that out, and it's basically anybody. It could be a pastor, it could be a religious ed teacher. It's somebody who knows that you do your duty to God, and if you do your duty to God, they fill it out, right? So it's pretty much that. Now, if you don't go to church, then your parent, one of your parents would fill out a letter for your religious reference. So in addition to the parent reference, they would have a religious reference as well. So they would fill out two forms, one as a parent and one is for your religious reference. On your application, you have to put, on your Eagle application, you have to put everybody's name that you're getting references from. So under the religious row, you would put your parents if you don't go to church. So if you don't go to church, you would put your parent name, and they're the ones that are providing that reference for how you do your duty to God. Okay, so the next one, this side here shows you the example of the form that we have up on the website that you can download and use to hand out to your teachers and your parents and people that are going to be giving you references. And it really is quick. It's an easy form for them to fill out, and they fold it, and they Scotch tape it, and they give it back to you, and you put it in your binder and hand it in with everything else. This just says that the only people that really look at these letters are the board of review, and then after the board of review is done, they're destroyed. You don't get a copy of them. That form that I talked about before, where you put in your ambitions, life purpose, and what you did outside of scouting, that's called Requirement 7, and this is what the form looks like. Again, it's really simple. Take you 5 minutes to fill the thing out. The form that is the Internet Advancement Memory Summary Report that I talked about, that the advancement person gets from Internet Advancement, this is what it looks like. And as you can see, it has all of your merit badges and dates on it. So it's really convenient for you when you get to the point where you have to put your merit badges and dates in the checker, and on your application, you'll have all the dates there. It also has your member ID in it, which is something to put on your application. It makes sure that you're registered and how you're registered, if you're registered in a crew or if you're registered in a troop, because that's kind of important. And when you got your life and star boards of review, things like that. And now at that point, your paperwork is done. So you're ready to go and get everything else finished. The next step is that once you have all the paperwork done and everything's in your binder, you need to give it to the person in your district who processes your Eagle application and your what we call the packet, because everything is in the binder we're now calling a packet. So they would process your packet. They have certain dates that they would like you to have them into them, and certain lead times that they would like, so that they have a chance to check things at their leisure and get it done before your board review. So they will let you know, you give it to them, they'll let you know when you can have when the board review will be scheduled, and then you go to your Eagle Scout board review. This whole packet process, we see a lot of them. We process over 1,000 Eagles a year in our council, so we see a lot of these packets go through. Probably 40% of the problems are because the person is not registered where they think they are registered. They're either registered in a crew and they think they're in a troop, or they're not registered at all. Somebody didn't register them right. That Internet Advancement report solves that for us. It tells you where you're registered, and you can't even get that report unless you're registered. There are a lot of times that the signatures and dates are wrong or missing, so just make sure that they're correct. Letters of recommendation, they're partial, they're not all there. Maybe that's about 30% of them, of our problems. Leadership roles, positions of responsibility are wrong for the unit that you're in. So if you're registered in a crew, you can't be a senior patrol leader, because there is no such thing as a senior patrol leader in a crew. So leadership roles have to be right during the dates that you said that you did the 6 months. Requirement 7 is missing. It's a little bit of the problems. People didn't fill out that form. They didn't include the Excel file, that spreadsheet. That Excel file is not required. I mean, you could get through it without it, but it really is helpful for everybody along the chain. And then wrong merit badges were taken, or like cooking wasn't taken, something like that. Okay, then what they'll do is they'll look at it and they'll make sure everything's right from what they can tell, and then they'll schedule a board of review. Somebody at the district, we call it a district verifier or a district certifier, will look at it and say, yep, it looks fine. We'll schedule a board of review. There is a process in your district of how to get that date for the board of review. We have a lot of different districts out there, so normally the verifier will tell you when the board of review is, and you just go and you'll get your board of review done. Board of reviews, just give you a high level what they're like. There's going to be between 3 and 6 people on the board. Chances are they're not people you know, so there are going to be 3 strangers on the board. That's by design. We do that on purpose. Somebody from your unit can sit with you at the board of review. That could be the scoutmaster or anybody else from your unit, but they can't say anything. They're observers. They can't really talk unless the board asks them a specific question. Your family members cannot sit on the boards of review. Your relatives and parents can't be there, and the boards take about 30 minutes to 45 minutes. If they're taking way longer than 45 minutes, it's a process problem. They shouldn't be taking that long. Okay, so after the review, after they go through their board review with you, they will ask you to leave the room and they'll vote. All right? And the vote has to be unanimous to recommend either the candidate is approved or for Eagle. If the vote is not unanimous, then the candidate's not going to be approved. Now, the the voting has to be based purely on advancement. So with all of our checks and balances, you should get through the board review process relatively easily. After the board is done, the board will sign and date the Eagle application form and the checklist sheet as well. And sometimes the district has another review form that they want the board review to sign off on. They will take those things out of your packet. They'll take the application out, the checklist out, and the recommendation letters out of your binder, and they'll hand the binder back to you with everything else. And the paperwork that they've taken out, the application then is sent to council. The council executive will sign the application, and then it'll be forwarded to national. National will process it and then return it to actually what they'll do is the national will process it, notify council of the results of the processing, and they will council will send you the official Eagle certificate, or let you know that there was an issue, one or the other. Normally there are very few issues in our council because we do so many checks and balances. So if it could take up to 6 weeks to process before you receive the certificate back from council, the national certificate. If you haven't received that within 6 months, then go ahead, or 6 weeks I should say, go ahead and contact the council Eagle Services. Call council and ask for Eagle Services and check up on it. I don't want you waiting 6 months for a paperwork problem. Somebody misplaced the paperwork, or we have to go find the paperwork. The 6 months is just wasted then. So don't wait. Don't wait more than 6 weeks. If you don't get the certificate back in 6 weeks, call and they'll let you know where your application is. Your Eagle Court of Honor until you hear back with the final paperwork. Because if you schedule an Eagle Court of Honor and then somebody flies in from out of state and you don't have your final paperwork, then you cannot get the Eagle medal, and they flew out for nothing. So we don't want that to happen. So don't schedule your Eagle Court of Honor until you receive the final paperwork from National. Okay, so remember this process from the very beginning. This is our process flow, and we walked through each of these steps, got our project done, and got the workbook all filled out. We served for 6 months as a position of responsibility. We got recommendations from people and recommendation letters, filled out our Requirement 7 report, and had our Scoutmaster Conference done. Then we went out and asked, after we finished the merit badges, we asked the person in charge of advancement to give us the Internet Advancement Report for the individual member that had all of our merit badges listed and all of our ranks listed and all the dates that we did. And after we got that information, we could then fill out our checklist, because we have all the information we need to fill out our checklist. We fill out the checklist, fill out our Eagle application, submit the whole packet to the person who reviews it at district, go to our board, become Eagle. That's your process. And real simple. In a nutshell, it goes pretty quickly. You should be able to get it done in a year. Projects normally take from start to finish of the project cycle. This thing up here, it takes on an average of 6 months. You can do it quicker than that, all depending on how much time you want to devote to organization and getting it done. The average is a little, over 5 months to get the whole thing done. Definitely doable in your freshman year of high school to finish all of this stuff, and I would recommend that you definitely aim for that. So here are some places to go for more information. Again, the Council Eagle page is where all the forms are, and that's your go-to site for all these forms, the process, the handouts, the more information, all that stuff. The whole process and everything is documented at National because it's the same. It's the same for us. It's the same for people in New York. It's the same for people in Hawaii. Their process is documented in something called the Guide to Advancement. And if you go into the Guide to Advancement, which is over at scouting.org, there's actually a section, a whole chapter on the Eagle Scout rank and the whole process and its policies. And you can read to your heart's content. It's really kind of boring stuff. It puts you to sleep at night. If you have any questions, or anyone else has any questions on the process outside of your district, feel free to email Grand Canyon Council Advancement, which is this email address here, gccadvancement1@gmail.com. If you have a question concerning winter boards of review, who do I give my packet to, all that kind of stuff, don't email it to that address. Instead, find out who it is at your district that handles the Eagle boards and ask them. Okay? If you get stuck and nobody knows who handles the Eagle process at your district, then go ahead and email this email address, and we'll find out who your district advancement chairman is and let you know their contact information. There's all kinds of advancement stuff out there at scouting.org. Advancement is the national advancement page. It also, from there, you can find merit badge requirements and things like that. There is an Eagle Scout Association out there that offers scholarships and other things. And I would suggest sometime go take a look at them. It's nesa.org. They are a national fraternity of Eagle Scouts, and when you become one, you become a member of that. But they also offer scholarships for Eagles, and like I mentioned, and awards and things like that. And then there is a site called eaglescout.org that has additional resources. It also has Eagle Court of Honor scripts and things like that there. So and they also, I think, have scholarships listings as well. We also have scholarship listings at our Eagle Services website at the council site, the one way up here at the beginning. We offer a list or a link to scholarship opportunities for Eagle Scouts, which becomes kind of a good thing to know about. And if you're interested, you can follow our link that is there. So that's the end of our presentation, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors to become an Eagle Scout.